Eastern Caribbean Central Bank opened its 7th Growth and Resilience Dialogue on 25th April with presenters and discussions centered on the topic an appropriate and sustainable model for healthcare in the ECCU and OECS countries, agile infrastructure, traditional medicine, and medicinal cannabis. Supporting the program are the University of the West Indies, the World Bank, and the Commission of the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States. To achieve resilience and sustainability in health and medicine, the dialogue focused on multifaceted approaches, including the use of technology, substantial collaboration, research, and the integration of traditional medicine, as well as the need to make significant progress in developing effective medical cannabis industries. St. Kitts and Nevis' Prime Minister Dr. Terence Drew, in delivering the featured address, also pointed to the need for the sub-region to establish centers of excellence in health and medicine.
When many of our people have to access specialized care, on many occasions they have to travel abroad where care is extremely expensive. Those who lack the financial resources or don't have appropriate health insurance go without care or substandard care. I have seen patients who might have had a chance to live, but they die because of lack of access. We can therefore consider, and I hope that this gets to the other heads, and I intend to bring this also at the CARICOM level as its chief spokesperson for health, we can consider establishing a center of excellence on each island or territory that each of us can have access to. Break it down into simple terms. St. Kitts and Nevis can have a center of excellence for cardiac diseases, heart disease. St. Vincent might be able to have one for gastrointestinal issues. Antigua might be able to have one for neurological diseases. What I'm simply saying here, that it calls for collaboration and a shared vision that we need to provide for our people in this sub-region top-class health care. But we are too small for each of us to carry that burden. And if we share the burden, then there are greater possibilities that within this sub-region we can have centers of excellence that can serve all of our people.
Embracing the use of artificial intelligence along with appropriate policies and legislative frameworks are also key for the sustainability and resilience to be achieved in health in the sub-region. Glenn Bart reporting for SK Newsline.
Premier of Nevis Mark Brantley is calling on divisions to take advantage of the job opportunities currently on offer on the island. The Premier, while speaking at his monthly press conference on Tuesday, decried what appears to be the lack of proactiveness by divisions to apply for jobs currently on offer on the island.
The Radius call center facility will be having a job fair tomorrow, Wednesday, from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the call center location in Brown Hill. They have indicated that they intend to employ some 50 persons initially, and thereafter to employ others as they build out to ultimately, they say, about 325 persons. It is a significant opportunity for us to deal with pockets of unemployment that we have on the island, and so I am inviting our people to take advantage. Please do not give me the usual refrain, I didn't know, or I didn't hear about it, because we have been talking about it for some time. I am also going to say something, and I hope I'm not caught in controversy when I say so. But I am hearing and being advised that the vast majority of applicants for these jobs thus far, because you can apply online in advance of the job fair, or you can take your resume, your CV, there, and then be interviewed at the job fair. But I'm told the vast majority of applicants at this time are persons from Haiti, from Dominica, from Jamaica, from Guyana, and that it seems that Nevisians and Kittitians have not been applying in equal numbers.
Mr. Brantley said people seem more interested in getting a government job, SK Newsline asked him whether or not the political culture on both St. Kitts and in Nevis encourages persons to be dependent on the government to be employed rather than looking for work in the private sector. Just to get your thoughts, do you think that the political culture, as you talk about people wanting work primarily with government, do you think the political culture on both St. Kitts and Nevis may have over the years encouraged this kind of dependency on government, so to speak, where persons feel they must have a government job in order to have a job?
I would have thought that the political culture, particularly recently, would tell people that working in government may not be so secure. Because in St. Kitts, we had a government in 2015. That government had collapsed 7 years later. That wasn't much job security for persons who were hired based on politics. I think that if you're pinning your sail to a political party for work, then that is probably not a sustainable approach.
Andre Huey, SKN Newsline.
The St. Kitts and Nevis Labour Party continued its program of pre-Labour Day activities with a public meeting in constituency number 8, represented by Dr. Terence Drew, the country's Prime Minister. Speaking on the platform on Sunday evening, 23rd April 2023, Dr. Drew said the SKNLP-led government of St. Kitts and Nevis is creating a foundation for development in areas of education, housing, infrastructure, health and tourism, among several other areas. He spoke also to and affirmed that the government has delivered on many of its promises.
We have delivered a significant number of jobs for the people here in St. Kitts and Nevis. You who have received your job, let the people know that you have received your job under your strong and good Labour government. We have delivered for you. We have made sure that when it comes to inflation or the cost of goods, that St. Kitts and Nevis is possibly the lowest in the OECS when it comes to inflation. That means that the cost of goods are some of the lowest in the OECS in terms of percentage increase. That is because your government is working to make sure that we temper prices. Put your hands together for your good government. They can't do it like us. They can't do it like us. The World Bank the other day put out some statistics, and they're saying that St. Kitts and Nevis is now rising to be number one again in the OECS. And not only the OECS, but the whole Caribbean, because we want to be number one also in the Caribbean. Hurting them bad. Hurting them bad. Look at what the IMF has said about St. Kitts and Nevis economy. The economy is strong because when we came back in, we made sure that we made the necessary steps to create a strong economy.
According to Dr. Drew, the discussions on raising the minimum wage for St. Kitts and Nevis is still in progress, as he told the audience that a raised minimum wage is better than handouts. Glenn Barth reporting for SKN Newsline.
It's beautiful. He took one look at you and the angels started singing.
Another wonderful day.
What would you say about staying here for a few months or like a year, just so that we can be together again and just live and love and laugh and have fun and breathe?
Why are you hiding out on a little Caribbean island, singing in a beach bar?
When I came here, I was at peace, and I never left.
This is the beating heart of Nevis. This is what grounds me, what feeds my soul. It's where I found myself.
I hope your life here will be full of joy. Love this island, my son. She will give you more than you can imagine.
Want to buy some fresh fruits, vegetables, or ground provision, but don't have the time to go to the market or even to find parking? Look no further. Green Market and Delivery is your solution. Green Market and Delivery is an e-commerce store that sells and delivers local produce to customers in St. Kitts and Nevis. Anything you purchase, you can get fresh from the market and delivered directly to your door. Log on to www.greenmarketskn.com. Click on the e-store link, choose your items, and shop away. We have a wide array of products from fruits, vegetables, local products, spices and seasonings, and much more. Save time and energy. Shop on greenmarketskn.com, your one-stop shop for fresh local produce.
Online radio has never been this great. It's Voice of the Caribbean Radio at voiceofthecaribbean.net. Tune into Voice of the Caribbean Radio for great Caribbean programs, news, entertainment, sports, and current affairs. Wake up each morning and be inspired with One Day at a Time with Kim Huey. Stay abreast with news across the Caribbean and internationally with the Caribbean News Hour, and be entertained with shows like Reggaeville, Caribbean Classics, and Jive Music Show. Visit our website, download our Android mobile app, or listen us on TuneIn Radio. There is so much more on Voice of the Caribbean Radio, reaching the Caribbean and beyond. Check website or app for program schedule.
The SKN Newsline website now offers you more news. Log on to www.sknnewsline.com for local, regional, and international news. You can also watch the latest newscast and keep abreast with news in sports, all from sknnewsline.com. That's www.sknnewsline.com. News at your fingertips.
Dozens of people, including women and children, have been killed in rampant violence among rival gangs in Haiti. And UN officials say the security situation there has hit an alarming level. Our Isingje reports.
According to the United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, at least 70 people have been killed and 40 more wounded in clashes between rival gangs in Haiti between April 14th and 19th. The gang violence is centered in Cité Soleil, the largest slum in the capital Port-au-Prince. According to a statement released by OCHA, the humanitarian and security situation in many areas in Cité Soleil has now reached an alarming level. It stressed that women and children are especially exposed to the ongoing gang violence, with reports saying that 18 women and 2 children are among the dead. The violence has limited the movement in and out of Cité Soleil, while also cutting off access to essential goods and services. It's also led to the closure of many schools and health centers in the area. The region is also facing severe food insecurity and is among the worst affected by cholera in the country. At the same time, torrential rains in recent weeks have worsened health and living conditions for those living in the shantytown. Haitians who are sick and tired of the gang violence that has crippled the capital are now taking action. Police say a mob beat and burned 13 suspected gang members to death with gasoline-soaked tires in Port-au-Prince on Monday. Witnesses say the mob took the suspected gangsters away from police and beat them and stoned them before burning them to death. Port-au-Prince has seen criminal gangs take control of what's been estimated as more than 60% of the city since the assassination of President Jovenel Moïse in July 2021. Isingje, Arirang News.
The leader of the opposition, Aubrey Norton, during his press briefing last week, accused the governing People's Progressive Party, Civic PPC, of forging several signatures of candidates and supporters vying for office in the upcoming local government elections on June 12. His accusations came 1 week after nominations day held on April 17. Against this backdrop, the opposition-appointed Guyana Elections Commission, GCOM's Commissioner Vincent Alexander, noted that although the evidence released by APNU continues to circulate, GCOM failed to launch a thorough probe into the allegation. He said, too, that the commission also sought not to probe similar incidents involving a series of documents claimed to be death certificates of persons whose names were registered as voters in the March 2, 2020 elections.
GCOM sought not to act on that evidence under all sorts of reasons that can't stand public scrutiny. So it goes back to my earlier question about GCOM being, I would say in that regard, compromised.
The commissioner further said that the evidence produced by the opposition was not merely documents presented, but credible verification of documents released to support the party's claims.
GCOM could have sought to review its own operations to see if there were flaws in the system that allow that to happen, and therefore to correct the system. Other than doing that, GCOM refused to review its own system.
Alexander explained that in reviewing the entire GCOM system, it allows for the identification of flaws and anomalies as an aid to prevent discrepancies. Attorney General Anil Nandlal and the entire PPC continue to contend that the lists are not bloated, he said.
Political activists of a particular party have embraced the practice of tampering with the dead, having the dead listed for the purpose of being a candidate in this instance, for the purpose of being a nominator. And one can well imagine, with that culture exposed, that those are the same people who would have tampered with the dead for the purpose of voting, as is evident.
In a recently deleted Facebook post, the daughter of a dead Berbice woman whose identity and forged signature were used on nomination documents for a PPP candidate in the LGEs noted her disappointment and called for an explanation from the PPP. She later claimed that the Vice President, Barry Jagdeo, subsequently apologized to her. A US-based Guyanese man is also calling on the PPP to remove his name as a nominator for one of its candidates, since he's currently in the US and has never nominated anyone or signed any document related to the elections. Reporting for the HP Nightly News, Joel Vogt.
The global price of wheat has shot up after Moscow indicated it could cancel a deal to guarantee grain exports from Ukraine through the Black Sea. The Kremlin says it is not serving Russian interests. The agreement, brokered by the UN in Turkey last July, allows Kyiv to export grain from a number of its Black Sea ports. Around 30% is shipped to lower-income countries in Africa and the Middle East, but the biggest overall share, around 20%, goes to Turkey. Spain gets 15%, Egypt gets 10%. Any restrictions on future exports would likely increase global food insecurity. Elsewhere in Europe, several countries have banned imports of Ukrainian grain. Farmers in Poland and Bulgaria say it is driving down their farmers' prices. Let's go live now to journalist Yulia Shapovalova for more on that grain deal. She's in Moscow. Yulia, yesterday the head of the UN said that he was proposing what he called a way forward to Russia. Where are we on these grain negotiations?
Absolutely. The negotiations are continuing. As we know, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres met with Sergei Lavrov on Monday and handed him a letter for President Vladimir Putin regarding the grain deal, that letter was, and it suggested further actions aimed at improving, extending and expanding the grain initiative. According to Guterres, he considered Moscow's concerns about the supply of Russian food and fertilizers. Earlier, the G7 agriculture ministers also called for the full implementation of the grain deal. And we also heard from Turkish Foreign Minister Mevlut Çavuşoğlu on Monday. And according to him, Ankara feels it's pretty realistic to extend the deal if Russia's demands are met. He said it is important to do this in May. Otherwise, there will be a food crisis in the world as it was during the pandemic. But according to Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov, we just heard from him several minutes ago, the loss of Ukrainian and Russian grain from the market will not be the cause of a global food shortage. He said that basically the circumstances so far are not in favor of extending the grain deal, but the Russian Federation continues to watch the situation. Meanwhile, we're also hearing from Russia's defense ministry, and it accused Ukraine of attempting an attack on its ships in the Black Sea Monday night, which was threatening prospects for the deal as well.
Right. That's one of Russia's arguments against the deal, is they say that Ukraine has been using it as cover to attack Russian warships in the Black Sea. Look, what's this going to take? What's it going to take for Moscow to extend the deal?
Right. Moscow has repeatedly criticized the implementation of the agreement, saying that the conditions are not met and they are met only for the Ukrainian side. So what does Russia actually want? On April the 14th, the Russian Foreign Ministry announced 5 conditions for extending the grain deal, including the connection of the Russian Agricultural Bank to the SWIFT payment system, the resumption of supplies to Russia of agricultural machinery, spare details and spare parts and services that fell under Western sanctions, as well as the lifting of restrictions on insurance for Russian ships, as well as the lifting of the ban on their access to ports. So the grain deal was signed in July, as you mentioned, 2022, by representatives of Turkey and the UN on the one hand, and representatives of Russia and Ukraine on the other. And separate agreements were signed with Moscow and Kiev. The first one was for the export of Ukrainian grain from 3 ports, including Odessa, Yuzhny and Chernomorsk. And the second one was actually aimed at assisting Russia in its exports of agricultural produce and fertilizers. Moscow has repeatedly noted that the second part of the deal is not being implemented. And Mr. Lavrov said that virtually nothing has been done to remove these restrictions and overcome all those obstacles, and that Western countries have not yet lifted restrictions that prevent the Russian agricultural exports. In March, Russia extended the deal for 60 days, and its term expires on the 18th of May.
Yulia Shapovalova in Moscow, thank you very much.
The United Nations has warned of further displacement of people fleeing Sudan violence. The warning comes as thousands of people stream into neighboring Chad and South Sudan despite a tenuous ceasefire between the two warring Sudanese generals battling for control of the country. At least 20,000 Sudanese have fled into Chad, and some 4,000 South Sudanese refugees who had been living in Sudan have returned to their home country.
So far, the most significant cross-border movements in the region have been of Sudanese fleeing to Chad and South Sudanese refugees returning to South Sudan. While we have also received reports of people starting to arrive in Egypt, exact numbers are not available at this point.
More than 800,000 South Sudanese refugees live in Sudan, a quarter of them in the capital of Khartoum, where they are directly affected by the fighting.
Some of the population movements we expect to observe in the coming days include outflows of new Sudanese refugees to neighboring countries, returns of refugees who are being hosted by Sudan, and movements of other refugees being hosted by Sudan to other neighboring countries. UNHCR is working closely with partners and governments in the regions to assess the needs of the newly arrived and prepare a joint response.
Dozens of hospitals have shuttered in Khartoum and elsewhere across the country due to the fighting and dwindling medical and fuel supplies, according to the Sudanese Doctors Syndicate. The UN warned Friday the health system risks total collapse if the violence does not stop.
Finals time in the Sandy Lane Charitable Trust Easter Youth Tournament. This is Nolan Stewart Jr. closest to the screen up against Kanoja Belgrave. Belgrave looked sharp coming into the court on a few occasions. Stewart Jr. said two can play that game as well, this time using the angle. Crowd loving it. Belgrave would move from being up 9-5 to take the first game 21-13. A switch of ends didn't make much of a difference. The half volleys were met with the full face of the racket, a gem down the line. Nolan did try to match the flair of Belgrave, but his GPS was slightly off, and Kanoja would eventually run away with this one in 2 straight, 21-13, 21-8, to be the primary school boys champion. Let's move on to the secondary school under 16 girls final. Renisha Stewart closest to the screen playing Kezia Blunt. Close between these two at 5-4. Then some unforced errors from Blunt helped Stewart pull away to draw first blood, 21-12. Into the second we go. This was the shot of the match for me. The rocket speed from Stewart left Blunt frozen in time. From there was smooth sailing for the most part, as Stewart would go on to take the contest 21-12, 21-15, and the title in the under-16 girls. In the under-16 boys now, Azari Clark in the far court playing Raheem Nurse. This one was locked at one game apiece, with Clark taking the first, 21-19. Nurse responding in the second, 21-16. You could tell it was a matchup with a roller coaster effect, superb potential at both ends of the court. In the third, Nurse outdueled his opponent, with Clark finding the net on a few occasions and not making some adjustments. Nurse eventually taking the boys' title in the third, 21-15. In the feature matchup, Shaquem Nurse in the far court versus Deontay Chapman. Chapman winning the battle of the back arm rally, eye candy. However, Nurse up 5-2 would send down some gentle reminders. Chapman venturing into the court and caught napping on the baseline. Nurse pouncing. These two really whet the appetite of the crowd with some engrossing stroke play. But there could only be one winner, and Nurse would prevail to secure the senior boys crown. Congratulations to all the winners. Damien Best, CBC Sports.
Welcome to the SKN Newsline Weather Report. I am Janil Boole. Here is a look at the forecast for St. Kitts and Nevis. For a more detailed weather report, visit our website at www.sknnewsline.com.